Thank you for viewing in on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, known throughout the United States as the Money Lady. And again, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to come into your homes to talk about my favorite subject, money. And today I have as my guest an extraordinary man whose specialty is businesses and wealth building. And of course, in the economic times that we're in today, those of you that listen to me know how I feel about entrepreneurship and the power that comes from people being in control of their financial destiny through owning their businesses and through wealth creation. So I am excited about our guest, and without a lot of fanfare, I'm going to introduce this remarkable man to you. Please sit down, have a seat, stop doing what you're doing, because the information you're going to get today is powerful indeed. So again, how are you? And would you introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
I am Philip Hughes with Power One Nation.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Philip.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's see, my background, actually, I got my degree in psychology at Wesleyan University, and actually I worked a lot with young people, but I was director of a youth program for approximately about 4 years while I was at Wesleyan. But one of the things I discovered was, as I was sort of going out and asking business owners and other folks to support our program, I sort of realized that we needed to have economic control in order to be able to really impact young people. So when I got out of college, I spent about a year in social work, but then I got into insurance and investments, and I started learning about planning. And I began to realize that there's a lot of information that people just did not know. About the markets, about products, about things that I didn't know, and so it opened up my eyes to sort of a whole new world. And as you talk about the power of money,
yes, and power of money,
right? And so and of course, in our country, there's 3 great repositories of money. You have banks and things and such. Of course, you have the stock market, but you also have the insurance world. And
yes.
And there's a lot of folks.
The big banks.
You got it. They're super huge.
The big banks.
And it's
right.
amazing when you look at this last economic cycle that we went into, the major downturn. A lot of most folks don't even realize that look, as the banks had major problems, the market obviously had major problems.
Yes.
But insurance companies overall weathered the storm very, very well.
I think insurance companies globally
yes.
did very, very well.
Yes.
As the stabilizers,
right.
I'd like to say.
Because they sort of serve as the real conservative
yes.
investors among the trio that I mentioned. And so the more I begin to study, the more I begin to realize that we need to communicate more effective information to the communities, to individuals around planning and things and such. But but my career took a major shift about 15 years ago, and I began to be led to study wealth and how wealth is developed within our country.
Yes.
One of the things that really shocked me as I began to look at the Henry Fords, the
yes.
Andrew Carnegies, the
yes.
Bill Gates,
yes.
and begin to look at their philosophies versus what we're taught. Because Michelle, here's how we're taught to succeed in America today. We're taught that you go to school,
yes,
get a great education,
yes,
get good grades, and you go out and you get a good job, good job.
Right.
And you work 40 hours a week for the next 40 years and retire on 40% of what you couldn't live off of in the first place.
Isn't that really bizarre?
What sense does that make? People are waking up today recognizing that there's something wrong with that model. Something is wrong with the systems and the information that they've been taught. So they're beginning to sort of wake up to a few realities, and
yes.
they're beginning to recognize that they must do something different to secure their financial future.
Well, if I can speak to that, because you do know, and we've known each other for years, that has been my modus operandi
yes.
for 36
yes.
years,
yes.
which is God bless the child that has their own,
right.
that you're never going to become wealthy working for someone else. That's not possible.
I ask people a basic question. When you look at folks who are incredibly wealthy, did they obtain their wealth through a job? And almost all of them say no.
So
So
what, right,
why? So the
right.
question is, if you have examples of people who become wealthy, and yet you're trying to become financially secure, independent, or wealthy from a job, and yet your philosophies are not lining up with theirs, maybe you should start really truly learning what they do. And that's sort of the trek I began some 15 years ago.
That's powerful.
Yes.
That is powerful.
One of the things, Michelle, that really shocked me about wealthy folks is that, first off, let's define what wealth is, because most of the time when we think of wealth, we think of money.
Right.
We think of
But-
having
right, right.
having a lot of money, the
Right,
big houses,
right,
big homes,
right,
and things.
right.
But wealth actually is not necessarily what you have. It's who you are. It's the philosophies, the mentalities, and the values you bring to the marketplace that dictate whether or not the market will pay you huge returns.
Exactly.
And so and here's the thing, because see, this is going to be a little bit shocking for some folks, because see, if you're living out your purpose, if you're living out your destiny in the marketplace, and you're moving towards some very defined goals, then no matter where you are, you're successful. You're becoming wealthy because of the passion and you're accomplishing your goals and your vision as such. I mean, think about this. Mother Teresa had absolutely, had nothing really of her own, or
Right.
nothing in her name, but she was probably one of the most powerful people when it comes to money, when it comes to control of resources.
Yes.
As such, she was really considered, in my mind, one of the wealthiest people, because she
Yes.
had access and ability to be able to influence so much.
Right.
And yet she was living out her purpose.
Yes.
Same thing with Dr. Martin Luther King. It's the same sort of scenario. I mean, here's a man who had great vision, didn't have a lot of money monetarily, but had great influence.
Right.
And yet he was able to live out his vision, live out his purpose. And we're seeing his vision, come into fruition today
sure.
as a result of him stepping out on faith and doing what he's done. But in the business world, people do the exact same thing. They have a vision for what they want to accomplish.
Yes, we do.
They step out on faith,
Yes.
and they begin to work that vision. And because of the process, now here's the thing. I know you're familiar very much with Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, of course.
And
course.
if anyone has not
course.
heard of Robert Kiyosaki and read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I strongly recommend that you
Yes.
get the book, you read the book.
Yes.
But I was at a conference, and it was amazing to me that he pointed out something that really sort of blew me away. It was so simple, yet so powerful. And he said, the reason why most people don't become successful, that being accomplishing, great wealth, great income, is that, and he drew a little stick, he drew on a board, he drew a little stick figure. He said, here's you, all right? You're living your life, you're working hard and everything else. And he said, here's your goal, your vision, your dream. And he represented it by a dollar sign. And he drew this little cylinder between you and that big old dollar sign. And he said the reason why most people do not succeed is simply because they're unwilling to go through, and he wrote the word process in that calendar, in there. And he said most people are unwilling to go through the process that it takes to succeed and become wealthy.
Right.
They may start out, but they run into an obstacle, they run into a challenge, they run into a situation, and they give up.
Right. They
instead
do.
of just thinking it through.
They do.
Right.
And I can certainly attest to that, because I've maintained over the years that wealth does not come from a finger snap.
No.
It's hard work, it's brutal discipline, and your focus. You have to see the end of a thing.
Right.
And then be willing to go through all of the steps or the process, as Mr. Kiyosaki said, to get to that end result. And you can't carry a lot of weight and baggage.
See,
We can be open about this, because people need to hear this. The majority of people will remain enslaved to a job because they're unwilling to go through the process,
right? And that's
to get them there.
And that's the challenge, is because that's the mentality. See, that's the mentality that's really been ingrained in people.
Well, it's by design, though.
It is.
I mean, the workforce. I mean, come on, in the manufacturing world, that's now kind of history.
Right.
But in the manufacturing world, they needed an educated workforce.
Right.
You can't build cars if you
got it.
only know how to do cows.
Right.
So they had to create an infrastructure of education in this country to have a ready workforce for these jobs so that they would make profit.
And
Everything's imploded today, Phil.
And see, the problem is that our educational systems have not adapted to the new realities, because see, here's what's happened in that whole manufacturing and in the business, is that what happened is that, assets have built up around the corporations and things and such. And so everyone started coming to that. They started getting trained. The school systems adapted, as you said, and such. But now what's happening is that technology is replacing the corporate worker.
Well, as we see in this studio, robots.
Right, right. I mean, so technology is replacing people. At the same time, you're getting competition from markets that are now becoming industrialized. And such, where you have a large labor pool at very, very low cost. And what are these companies and these manufacturers doing? They're outsourcing those particular jobs to those particular countries, leaving the American worker.
Look at Steve Jobs and Apple. Apple's largest workforce is not in the United States.
That's correct.
So are we calling him un-American? Well, I don't think capitalists have any kind of national ties anyway.
No, I mean, no, it's about making profit for your shareholders and for yourself.
Right.
And so the thing is that they're going to go and try to reduce the cost as much as they possibly can.
Right.
But here's what's happening is that even in these industrialized nations, now the workers are demanding for higher wages. So now it's almost coming to a point whereby the incentives are not there for corporations to do the same outsourcing. But guess what? There's other markets that are coming online that folks will be able to go to. But here's the thing, bottom line for the American worker, is that they have to begin to think differently. They have to take more financial responsibility. They have to start thinking themselves as a free agent. Instead of really just going into and saying, and looking for that safe, secure job and things such, and expecting that job to be able to take care of them, they have to take a CEO approach to the marketplace.
But you know what, Phil, and I only say this because, I've been doing business consulting and had my own companies and birthing another company as we speak, tied into international. And the hardest thing about the American worker, and that is the deprogramming of the mind.
That is hard, but that's the process.
How do you do this, Phil?
Here's how you do it.
Okay.
First off, you have to first recognize that your way of thinking is wrong. That there's a problem.
Bam! Okay, Phil.
That's the first thing, is recognizing that
friends.
what you've been taught may not be the pathway to success long term and to your goals and dreams. And so once you begin to realize that, then you begin to seek out the information that will change the way in which you think. I just suggested Robert Kiyosaki, The Rich Dad Poor Dad, very powerful book.
Yes, it is.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. There are all these foundational books that will really help you to understand that there's a different philosophy, a different way of thinking, that wealthy people do not teach their kids to go get a good education so they can get a job. They teach their kids. Here's what wealthy people teach their kids. They teach their kids to go get a good education so that then you can go out to the marketplace and you can create assets that kick off income. And this is what Robert Kiyosaki teaches or sort of shares with us in terms of unveiling what wealthy people actually do. Is that instead of going out and getting a job where you have a linear income base, where you're trading time for dollars, here's where you're able to.
That's important. You're trading time for dollars. Okay.
As opposed to being able to leverage your time and be able to build something that is going to continue. Hopefully, if you're building an asset. And typically when I talk about assets, we're talking about business. We're talking about something that's going to be able to produce an ongoing revenue stream into your household, hopefully not just when you're there, but also when if you build it correctly, generational income.
Yes.
And here's, and so when you start building those assets, and see that instead of going out buying cars, buying all these things, stuff, that creates a liability for you, go out and invest in assets that kick off more income. And the more you do that, you have more income coming in. And the more income you have coming in, then you can begin to to raise your level of standard of living. But you have to, one, control your expenses, control your budget, control your finances, but also invest in things that produce a long-term return for you. And so one of the things I began to do, in looking at this whole concept, because I began to say, okay, wait a moment. Now, average people, given how they've been trained,
Right.
They are not prepared to go and enter into typically traditional business.
No.
And what do we talk
No.
about traditional business?
No.
Traditional business is that brick and mortar business,
Right.
where you have to go, you have to have a lot of capital.
Yes.
You typically have to have a lot of expertise.
Yes.
You typically, you typically going to need a lot of wherewithal. And the reason why 95% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, this is a statistic going back way
Right,
back.
way back.
The
Even
reason
when-
being is
yes.
because people don't have the capital, they don't have the expertise, and the business ultimately fails because they jump into something that they really didn't understand and they weren't prepared for psychologically.
Right, right.
And such. And so when I looked at traditional business, I said, well, even though we see companies that have had massive success, that we don't see all the failures and things
Right,
and such.
exactly.
And here's the
exactly.
thing that we got to keep in mind, though. Even with the failures, got to recognize the most successful people have gone through a number of failures before they get to success.
Yes,
That's
right.
part of the mindset and
Right.
recognizing that that's part of the process. Failure is a part of the process.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of failure.
A lot of failure, typically.
Really?
Typically,
A lot of failure.
Okay. Let's see.
Family failure.
Right. Right.
Your wife or husband will leave you.
Yeah,
I just guarantee you.
It's challenging. Yeah, it
they
is.
will leave you if their mindset is not consistent with what your focus is.
Right.
You can't expect them to ride a ship that they perceive is sinking.
Right.
They're not going to hang in.
Tom Watson, the founder of IBM, he put it this way, if you want to succeed, double your rate of failure. If you want
Yes,
to
to
succeed,
get there faster.
double your rate of failure.
Yes.
Yeah, because see, the thing is, you have to fail your way to success.
Right.
So failure is a part of it. But traditional business, when I looked at it for the average person, is going to be challenging because, one, they haven't been taught. And when they reach that failure curve, it's going to be real hard.
Yeah.
So I then looked at franchising.
Yes.
Franchising, there's been a lot of models for success. Problem is that in order to be able to get into a great franchise,
You're going to pay.
you big time. You're talking
You're
about
gonna pay.
200, 250, 500,000
Right,
for
right.
some of the better franchises.
right.
And don't expect to get your money back for the next 5 years.
Right,
So
right.
you working
Right,
hard,
working hard.
for the potential of return, but they have major cookbooks for success. And with franchises, it really depends on the three keywords: location, location, location.
Right.
In most of those franchises and things such. And so it becomes challenging for the average person to one come up with that huge upfront capital investment and then go through the learning process at the same time and not make any money for 5 years. So you have to
Oh,
be.
and then before on the subject of franchise, remember the purpose of having these fronts. At some point, you have to try to sell it.
Yeah, that should be your end game. But here,
The end game.
You know what?
No, I have to say this
Right.
because I have some situations now where people have franchises and cannot sell the franchise.
now I'm going to
Markets down.
I'm going to share something that
Okay.
may be that's going to rub people the wrong way when it comes to franchising,
Whatever.
but I'm going to share it anyway. Hey,
Whatever.
look, I'm going to be real. The thing is, Ray Kroc was talking about. He was at, when the founder of founder of McDonald's. He was at a business school, and he said, "What business am I in?" He presented. He was at the business school, and he was in front of all these students, sharp students, and he said, "What business am I in?" And of course, folks are talking about, "Well, you're in the hamburger business, restaurant business, you're in the food business." He said, "No, I'm in real estate." And he said, what he pointed out is that every McDonald's franchise, one, they own the land that the franchise is built on. You have the franchisee, comes in, purchases franchise, as such, pays the money for the building, the structure, and everything
Okay.
else, and then of course pays the lease and royalties back to the McDonald's corporation.
Absolutely.
And so the person here takes all the risk, puts in all the money up front, and produces an ongoing revenue stream to the McDonald's corporation. And when I looked at it, now here's the thing, I began to look at that particular model,
Right.
and I said, wait a
Because
moment.
it's still operative.
Yeah, it's
Phil.
very operative.
It's still operative.
But do you remember back long ago when when slaves were just freed, and they set up this system whereby folks would have a piece of land. They wouldn't necessarily own the land, but they would work the land, and whatever they produced went back to the landowner.
Called sharecropping.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What some franchises are basically high-tech sharecropping. And I was like, when I looked at that and I started discovering, I said, whoa.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
blew me away because, see, who really benefits here? Well, who has all the control? Well, the franchisor. Who, you know, who pays all the money? Franchisee.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I'm like, this is interesting. So franchises as an entity, I said, well, wait a moment, hold up. Maybe this is not the best way for people to get out into the marketplace.
For the average working
for the average person.
person.
But I then looked at this whole other industry called direct sales.
Right, right.
And here's one thing that kind of blew me away. Direct sales, also known as network marketing.
Network marketing, you're right.
And I was as skeptical as it come because I've had my experience with one of those famous companies that have been around forever. Everyone has been, everyone's been through there.
With tons of
inventory. Yeah, tons of inventory. Yeah, and so
Uh-huh.
everyone has had that particular experience. So
Right.
it's colored our view of the industry. But when I really took a good look at the industry, one, I began to sort of see something unique. One, people there were millionaires being created out of this industry.
Absolute.
And I was like, well, let me relook at this thing. And so I happened to be at a presentation from a company that's no longer in existence. And they did the model. You know, here's you bring in so many people, they bring in so many people, they bring in so many people. Now, when I looked at that, you know, I had a spiritual awakening because I saw a model there. Because not to preach really, but when I saw that model, I said, wait a moment. Isn't this the way Christ went about building the church, the Christian church?
Reproduction.
It was. What it was about was discipleship.
Right.
It was about you have to help someone else become successful
You do.
before you really achieve massive success.
Right.
And so I began to look at that, and the core of network marketing, core of direct sales is that if you have a good program, you know, that's centered around your own personal growth and development, and they're helping you to basically become more of a person, they will teach you the skills, the information, the things that you need to know to grow into that wealth mindset. Why? Because in order for the more successful you become, the more successful that particular program becomes.
It should.
It should. And see, if you're willing to go through the process.
Right.
It is a process because see that's the thing. Most people that get in, they're expecting make $10,000 their first month, and when they don't, they're quitting.
But you know what I share with people, because I'm very familiar with all of the models.
Right.
And in fact, the company I'm birthing now is strictly a manufacturing model based upon overseas ingredients, and I'm birthing that as a internet manufacturing model with no sales presence, just strictly boom. But I have to say that of all the models, I tell everyone that get over your prejudices and your preconceived notions about network marketing.
Right.
Because
you
the
have
truth,
to.
because and I understand when I tell folks the change is here.
Right.
Get over it. Because the bottom line is you're broke. Give me a better plan.
Right.
Show me something. Because you're broke.
Well, here's the thing that kind of blew me away, because one, as I said before, the spiritual model was so powerful, because when I looked at the core of what network marketing is supposed to be about, you know, it's about discipleship, helping other people. And if you have a servant's heart, if you go into it just for the money,
oh, you're never going to make it.
Right, you're never going to make it because
never.
You have to be willing to serve and help other people.
Right.
And it's
I'm not to shut you off,
sure.
But I appreciate what you're saying, because that is having. I have had friends. I still have friends who have done extraordinarily well in network marketing, but I also have friends who have done miserable.
Right.
And I have to say that the distinction is the commitment to discipling those under you versus the fast growth model, which is I'm harvesting and I'm bringing in all my relatives and my friends. Nobody wants to hear that stuff.
Right.
You know, I get calls, Phil, I get calls daily. Would you be interested in coming to a meeting?
Right.
No.
Right. Well, here's the challenge, because see, you know, there are a couple of things in the industry that are real challenging. Because when I started looking at the whole industry of direct sales and network marketing, you know, I found out, you know, because I've researched over 250 different programs.
Okay.
Because
so you've been out there.
Well, see, my approach was, you know, because my background is insurance and investments.
Right.
And as a financial advisor, you have to do due diligence
on everything. Yes,
every company, product, before you recommend that.
Right.
You know, it has to be suitable for that person.
Right.
So I said, wait a minute, let me take these same skill sets and apply it to the direct sales industry. And I began to research a lot of different companies. Found out there's a lot of junk out there. Tons of junk.
Tons of junk.
And see, people, because they don't don't know how to analyze, how to evaluate a good opportunity versus a bad one, they tend to jump in based on the wrong things, on emotion, on hype, on all these things, and they get involved with these companies. Yeah, you're going to get rich, and greed, and all these things that that end up causing sets a person up for failure. And then they, when they do fail because they didn't have the right knowledge or the right perspective, and they didn't have the right attitude, recognizing that you may fail a few times before you find the right one anyway. As such, they end up leaving and cussing and fussing and talking negatively about networking and direct sales. When the fact of the matter is they just did not understand.
I couldn't agree with, it's funny, on one of my earlier telecasts, I talked about why so many people fail, just as a part of another conversation about transitioning out of the workplace. And it is, the reality is you're going to work very hard at whatever business you do.
Very hard.
You're going, I tell folks, oh, you're getting ready to have a baby. And this is a whopper. And this is a whopper.
Seriously.
This thing is going to eat 24/7. It's going to be crying 24/7. And there are going to be times you're going to wonder, why did I do it? But as I share, you did it because the alternatives are, do you want to make somebody else rich?
Yes. Or do you want to build something for yourself?
Or do you want to build a legacy for yourself? Now, you have to make it. This is what makes America so powerful to me, and I've lived everywhere, because we have a system that supports business concepts, creative thinking, birthing, but it's still work.
Massive work. And the biggest thing in terms of that is that recognizing that for those people who've been brought up in the systems and brought up to think that, hey, look, you go and get a good job, as such, it's a paradigm shift to begin to enter into business. But you can do it gradually. You can earn while you learn. That's what network marketing and direct sales has an opportunity for you to do. It's typically a low cost of entry. And you typically, if you have a good program, good company, and you followed a simple criteria for evaluating these companies, the company, and you selected something that you can get personally passionate about, as such. Now, first off, before I tell people, take your emotions out of it, analyze it for what it is. If you're getting a good company and you like the product and like what it can do, as such, first look at the company. Is it strong? How long has it been around? Does it have a strong management team? Has the management team been jumping from opportunity to opportunity? So that's a clear telltale sign. How long have they been doing what they've been doing? Are they truly dedicated? Okay, they need to look at the product in and of itself. Is it a product of value? Would you buy this product independent of an economic opportunity? Do you have to join up with the program simply to basically get a discount on the product and things as such? And is it just a whole buying club?
Exactly.
Which a lot of them are. And so the only reason why people get in is to become a customer. As such. And so so what's the ratio between customers and distributors? How much of the product is being sold independent of how many customers do they have versus how many distributors do they have? If it's almost 1-to-1, may not want to take a serious look at that particular opportunity. As such. So then you definitely want to take a look at the market, and here's the key thing, because see, if you're marketing a product that is easily duplicatable, it will be duplicated, and that's a big challenge. There are a lot of products which are out there, and sooner or later, here's what happens. Some unique product comes out, with some great ingredient, something, and they have a story behind it. All right, so they tell a story. You got to have a story. Have a story, and they produce this particular product and things that everybody rushes to this company, joins in to get on the ground floor opportunity. Okay, and then that company starts rising. And then it starts hitting $100 million, $200 million market category, and then other companies start duplicating that and with their own particular version or brand or special ingredient onto that particular product. Okay, and then what happens is over time, with all these companies, all these companies start propping up, but none of the companies are growing because of all the competition. And then it hits $1 billion market category, and then Walmart takes a look at it. And once Walmart gets it, game over.
Trump,
that's it. Yeah, I mean,
ball game,
because there's no
next.
way, because of the volume and the
Right.
distribution mechanism that Walmart already has in
Right,
place, that you
right.
can compete cost-wise.
Right.
So you end up paying, $50, $60, for a bottle of juice that you can get from Walmart for $13.
It's so, you are so on point with this, because Walmart is the Trump
It is.
on a product.
Right.
And again, no matter how successful, and this is that greed factor, because
It
the
is.
guys that birth it are selling like crazy, trying to build their organization, because they know
In a very short period of
that
time.
in a very short period of time, that little berry or
Right.
that little drink or that little is going to become a part of the product matrix
Right.
of the largest retail distribution network in the world.
Right. And see, the
And
thing
that's
is,
just,
and so you have these folks, unfortunately, once again, you got to look at the company and everything
Yeah.
else. But you have one of the things that give network marketing a bad reputation is that you have these folks who understand this, and they get all these people involved, and next thing you know, they're jumping off to another opportunity.
Right.
And I would call it the cocaine mentality. People are they're looking
The
for
cocaine
they're looking for
mentality.
their next big
high.
hit.
Yeah.
Big
high,
and so that's what happens. And if you don't recognize that's what's going on, you can easily get caught up in mess. And then you eventually you start getting very disappointed, very discouraged by the industry if you don't understand. But there are some companies out there that are doing the right thing. There are some companies
I know there are.
that are shifting.
I spent time.
Right.
I'm still in Dallas, and Dallas is a birthing
Dallas
place.
is a great,
oh my
great market,
gosh.
awesome place. I want to be. Yes, yes,
Oh, yes.
yes,
Love those Texans.
yes.
But Dallas is an entrepreneurial epicenter. They birth companies, they birth people, they birth, period. And there are some that aren't as credible as others, but the reality is that many, many, many rapid growth companies have birthed out of Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
It's more than
Yes.
yeehaw and
Yeah,
riding ponies and painter horses. It's a business mindset that says we can do this. Now, maybe it has to do with having to go through everything to get to Texas, because you're going to see a lot to get to Texas.
True.
It's hot down there.
Well,
But I agree with you. I think that for the average person who has decided, particularly young people, because I look at young people, Phil, and I am so outdone at the lie they've been told.
Yeah.
They've got all this student loan debt. They can't ever get on track.
They come out behind the
They
eight ball.
come out.
Right. And that's one of the things I really see. Remember, I told you, my passion, my background is working with young people. But I began to realize something. So I feel God has taken me on this track to study wealth and wealth development, and so that I can have more of an impact in teaching young people the new philosophy, to teach them financial literacy, which is I know you are prime proponent of, things such, to begin to teach them new ways of thinking and approaching the marketplace that's going to be beneficial long term, to teach them about the power of leverage, to teach them basically that, hey, look, there are opportunities out here for you to learn and grow. And as I was sharing, when it comes to direct sales, with the right program and the right opportunity, you will learn servant leadership. The more you become a servant leader, the more success you will have. The more you're more concerned about. See, here's what I love: the more concern you have about other people and their success, reaching their goals, and such, the more you're going to see in terms of wealth for you and your family long term.
Phil, I love you.
I love you too. That's the reason why I'm here.
You.
Yes.
Gosh, because the whole servant leader mindset that identifies the paradigm shift, which is, don't show me any more fat men making a pile of money and everybody else is scrounging around with zero.
Right.
That is not the plan for this next century.
Right.
We've got to make a shift here.
Part of the, and see, in talking about leadership becomes really, really key. Because see, you have, there's really, in my mind, three types of leadership. You have positional leadership. People operating out of their authority, operating to, dictate, what's what. and that's traditional corporate America.
That's the old model.
That's the old model. But some of that old model is even creeped into this area of direct sales. Well, and then let me explain how. Then you have servant leadership, which is true servant leadership. These are the folks who become most successful, you know, in there because they're teaching and training their people to helping them become better. They're truly focusing on helping people to maximize the best that is within them, helping them to step out on faith, helping them to self-actualize. All right. Then you have, you know, what I call, let's see, these are false leaders. See, these are people who pretend to be servant leaders, but they really operate out of positional leadership and loyalty. And you see a lot, unfortunately, you see.
Give me more. What
okay,
do you
what
mean?
I mean by these folks, okay, these are folks who, you know, on an outside appearance, they look like they're doing all the work to be able to help you, but really, they're not really trying to help you, they're trying to help themselves. You know, they do all
so
the.
you're talking about pigs.
What do you call them?
Pigs.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
when they get real big, they become hogs.
Yeah,
and then
there
you
you
have
go.
To shoot them.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, then you have to shoot them.
Some of those folks, and see, the thing is that, yeah, you know, and yeah, they become boss hogs, and that's become a big problem.
Yes.
See, there it is.
Yes.
And see, and see, the problem
I'm from
is,
Kentucky.
it's
We
hard
shoot
to,
hogs.
yeah,
Okay.
it's hard to sometimes differentiate, you know, who's who. Outside of really talking with people who are working with these folks, because see the position, you know, these false leaders, these folks who basically they're willing to compromise their values. It's not they're all about just getting people engaged for their own sake, even though on the outside they look like they're trying to help you. Really, they're trying to help themselves. That's where their heart is, as such. And so you'll see it over time, but unfortunately, it's not necessarily easy to disseminate. So.
Well, I think you can. I guess I've been out in the world of business for 36 years now. I'm not a young woman, but I will tell you that that's a predator. They eat their young.
Yes,
and their young are the things they birthed.
Right.
And I observe people, Phil, very carefully in the public venue. I observe how they interface with people. I observe specifically how they interface with females. And the reason I say that is because if a male is got those issues of control,
yes,
how he interfaces with females is going to be very, very, very interesting.
Yes.
In terms of maneuvering and manipulating and the conversation.
There you go.
And like I told them, warning, warning, warning. I'm getting ready to get eaten. There's a viper in the house,
right.
You know. But in all seriousness, I think that it requires a certain level of observation, but I will tell you, watch how they deal with women. Watch how they interface with females.
That's good.
And whether they have an attitude that is, as I told them, oh, you're such a dinosaur, and I need to help you on to your end. But that is a good thing,
right?
What you're saying.
And also, when you look at, I mean, certain folks, and even how they treat women, how they treat other ethnic groups,
you know,
and things
that
such.
too.
And whether or not, here's the telltale sign: are there folks prospering? Are there folks who are part of the team? Are they actually growing, as such? Because you have some of these folks, you know, these false leaders who will actively, the hogs, they will keep people down because they want to get the override revenue instead of building leaders up.
Well,
Servant leaders build people.
I'm telling you, that's one of the very things that has turned me off, because I'm not into pigs and hogs. I don't eat them. I don't like them. And when I see that type of behavior in the marketplace, and it's very corporate.
Right.
This is so much a residual from corporate, which is, I'm going to crush you because I need the accolades, I need the revenue, I need these things, and I don't care anything about you. That is a residual from that way of management.
Right.
And that's going to be a big deal, because young people are not feeling it, Phil.
Right.
They'll quit.
Right.
They'll quit.
Here's how you can tell a servant leader.
Okay.
Okay. You know, one, they follow Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
Because
Zig
Ziglar says, you know, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want.
Yes.
They look to the long term. You know, a true servant leader recognizes that you cannot have real success without successors. So you want to be building as many leaders as you possibly can. You want people to pass you up. You're going to celebrate the success of somebody else,
Absolutely.
even more so than your own.
Absolutely.
That's how you tell a good servant leader, you know, and such. And so when you see that happening within teams or organizations and people, that's how you can discriminate and determine who's who. The positional leaders, false leaders, and the servant leaders.
I was so incredibly blessed to be a keynote speaker at an event that you were involved with. And I saw in that young lady, April Joy Gillespie.
Yes,
I saw,
excellent.
an alpha female.
Absolutely excellent.
And a leader, a servant leader.
Yes, she is.
She made my experience there joyful.
Right.
And I do speaking everywhere. And she was shocked. I was lugging in my computer and my projector, and she was like, "What is this?" And I told her, I said, "Listen, girl, I have gone to events where I've been the keynote speaker, and nothing has been in order.
Right.
Nothing has been done.
Right.
Never got paid. Oh no! This is I'm telling you, this is a pig thing.
Right.
Which is just completely chaotic. And I say to myself, in America, we are such a kind country where even idiots can get by.
Right.
They can, you know. But to be successful, and the way that young lady, and a young woman, Phil, she's in her 30s.
Yes, well, I'll tell you, Miss April Joy Gillespie is really, she is one of the folks, if you're talking about a true servant leader,
yes,
you know, she really epitomizes that.
I have to say, and I told her, I said, you brought tears to my eyes because I am a servant leader. And I said, my generation does not bring too many to bear. We can go there.
Right.
I said, because everybody's into the acquisition mode of gimme, 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 and if you won't give it to me, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. Oh, you don't like me, I'm just going to talk about you, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to do all kinds of things. It's a toxicity that comes from never having embraced the truth. And the truth is that we are responsible for one another. And my success can never be earned off the backs of somebody else. It does not work like that. That is an evil, lacking God principle.
Very good.
It just is. So I just had to say that I experienced, even though I'm not a part of your organization, but I experienced, to my delight, a flawless event. From beginning to end. And I told her, I said, you know what? I've run into another Michelle Graves in the making. Be careful, girl. You get ready to see some stuff. But just to ditto what you were speaking on.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: is that one, she has just an awesome future because of one. You know, I happened to meet her at one of the programs that we had selected as being one of the best of the best in the marketplace, and you know, she has that ability to be able to evaluate these companies, and she's positioned herself very, very well. And her, you know, and it's very clear that she is going to be teaching, training, sharing, impacting people's lives with what with the knowledge that she's gaining, and it's really, really great. You know, and so her event was absolutely excellent.
I just loved it. I had to put her at the top of my list of speaking events these last. No, it was just flawless, and to see. And I will say this because I find myself now engaged more and more with young entrepreneurs under 40s, and I said, well, maybe I found my own at 60. I'm now running around with young people. That's real different. I love the energy, but they, I think, have a tremendous opportunity through the network marketing model because they function in tribes. They clustered Facebook and
social media,
Twitter. I mean, you know,
the social media outlets is so geared towards really, you know, sort of the new dynamic. You know, what's happening in you know, in the world when it comes to looking at these economic models. And just want to, just sort of briefly share what I was talking about the criteria for. Let me go back to a moment, because I talked about the company, I talked about the market, I talked about the product, and also when I talk about the market, there should be a need for that particular product. And when you're evaluating, because a lot of times there are a lot of products out there that there's really no need for. They're manufacturing the need. You want to make sure that you have a product that is really truly needed out there. As such, you also want to look at compensation. How you're paid. Here's a telltale sign. Well, two things that you want to be wary of. If there's a large entry fee, and and you tend to be compensated on bringing people into the business as as a distributor of some kind, and that's where the bulk of your revenue is coming from. That's a problem, because most of your revenue should be generated directly from the marketing of the product. It should, I mean, because otherwise it's just, once again, one of those wholesale buying clubs, and you're just encouraged to be able to recruit people, but the product may not be strong enough to stand on its own. So you have a lot of people who have a greed mentality who are attracted to these type of programs, as opposed to people who look at the product, see that there's value in the product, and they want to make sure, and they get passionate about marketing and getting that product out into the marketplace. Now, as such, one of the telltale signs for evaluating, from a compensation standpoint, is how many sales do I have to do, or how much volume do I have to create in order to generate $1,000 of income? That's a telltale sign as to really the strength of the marketing plan, the product, and everything else. In addition to looking at, one, the ratio of customers, pure customers, people who are not even involved with the business, to those who are distributors or associates or such, and who are marketing the plan. Such, if in fact you're in a situation where there's far more customers, you're in good shape. Also, methods of distribution. Is there just one primary method of distribution? Is it just person to person, that type of sale, or is there abilities to be able to hit other markets? Companies, other venues, associations, so on and so forth. Is there other ways to be able to distribute a product other than just the person to person sales? As such, that's another thing to take a look at. And one of the most important items when you're looking at evaluating any particular company is timing. And we often talk about timing of a particular product. Every product has a product cycle. And the thing is that if you're looking at, today would not be the day that you want to go out and open up a business marketing cell phones. No. Timing has gone. Timing is way gone. But 20 years ago, perfect timing. It would have been perfect for that, because who had a cell phone? Doctors, a few folks back when, and they were bag phones.
We were in the $1,000 a month phone bill.
And remember, we used to call them car phones, because only a car could carry them around. A car phone. But see, once again, technology has advanced, and so now everybody, so the cell phone now, or the mobile device is really a mini computer, and you have so much now, but everybody has one now, and so that, from a timing standpoint, that would have been good timing 20 years ago. Now, not so much. Same thing too with bottled water. Who knew about bottled water? I had quite honestly, I kept having this debate. I'm like, why would people pay $1.20 for a bottle of water when they can go to the faucet, turn it on, get a glass of water for free?
Because the perception is that the tap water is going to kill you.
Here's what the industry did. It was they educated folks. I wonder about the educational process. They said tap water bad. Bottled water good. and we bought into it. Hook, line, and sinker. How many times now we say, somebody offers us tap water, we're like, I don't want that.
No. I just went through that, which is, you boil that water. I'm not drinking that water.
Now wait a minute, hold up. We grew up with tap water, Kool-Aid, all these things. I know. And it didn't hurt us much then.
I hope not.
So what happened? It was the education process around that, the branding of that. And now look at today. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It is.
And as such, once again, timing. If you had opportunity to be able to get in early, great. Such. But now that's not the time to be able to get involved with that industry.
So let me just, because our time is moving quickly, we've only got a short period left. What made you choose, through your evaluative process, and viewers, hear me well, I am not a part of his organization, but I am respectful of the fact that he did go through a very sequential critical evaluation, which is important in business. So what made you choose to be a part of
Legal Shield?
Legal Shield?
Yeah. Well, Legal Shield as a company has been around like 40 years, but when I ran across the product, it basically helps people get affordable access to the legal system. And I've had issues in the past. I mean, you just had attorney on, on a previous segment, as such. And unfortunately, attorneys, right now at $200 to $300 an hour for average people, it's hard for folks to be able to come up with that. Though we need more access to legal services and information than we ever have in the past. As such. And then when I got the product 15 years ago, I started using it.
You've been doing this for 15 years.
Well, I got the product 15 years ago. I joined up, but I was going through my due diligence process, studying a lot of different companies. So I didn't actively start building an organization until about maybe 10, 12 years ago. But here's what happened.
That's still a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But I started very slow, and I said, once again, it's a process.
Right.
How long people's process is determined upon the individual, as such. And I've been growing through my process and still growing. And so, but anyway, one of the things that differentiated this program is that, one, when I looked at the product, it's very different. There was no other real product that I could find that was out there on the marketplace that did what this particular product did. And two, I stared using the product, and it started saving me money. And so
that's bottom line.
That was it.
Bottom line.
I used it. It saved me money and gave me access to a whole group of attorneys. Now, my sister's an attorney. My best friend's a law professor. But when I had a legal situation, neither one of them could help me because one is in in Chicago, the other is down in Georgia, and as well they specialize in totally different areas.
Right.
And so so I needed more access than what everybody knows an attorney.
Right. But it's such a diverse field today.
And so what's happening in the legal industry is very simply this: it's going the way that healthcare has gone. Think about it. You're probably way back in the day. You could take a chicken into a doctor and get service. I didn't do that today. Why you need? And right now, and so the thing is, that when the price of healthcare got so high, they needed to have something that bridged the gap. That's health insurance. That was born about 53 years ago. Same thing true with car insurance. What car insurance is basically is prepaid rec, prepaid.
It is prepaid.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you're paying in advance.
You pay in advance for something that chances are will happen at some particular point in time where you're going to need the service.
Right.
And now it's mandatory. It's mandatory that people have it. If you drive, you have to have insurance. So anyway, so we see that direction going with legal services. This product fills that particular need in a very low cost rate.
Well, this has absolutely been an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
And I love Phil. I do. Known you for years, and likewise, and respect what you're doing and the critical content, because I have no doubt that you are extremely successful. I have no doubt that the Lord is with you.
Thank you.
I have no doubt. And I have no doubt that your philosophy about being a servant leader is going to advance you personally. But you've got a bunch of little babies in the rear.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about raising people up, is the people whose lives you impact. And never have we lived in a time in history, Phil, where we're seeing this demarcation of people that are pig-like in the same room with people that are harmonious.
Right.
And I say this, I was at several meetings, and I was with one group of investment people that were incredibly pig-like. And then I shifted over to another group of people that were incredibly humanitarian. And I said to myself, this is the cultural divide. This is not a race thing anymore. It's not a sex thing anymore. It's a mind thing. It is a mind thing. So I appreciate what you have brought to the table as a business person, an entrepreneur, a critical thinker, a person that uses your money maker, and to change and empower other people. And that's where I see you going and heading in these remaining minutes that we have.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've done is come together with folks who are in the direct sale industry with companies and organizations that are doing the right thing.
Right.
And we've come together to create a group called Operation Success.
Okay.
And our goal is to educate people about direct sales, help people to recognize what's going on. And on May 5th, at Renew Church, on West North Bend Road
in Cincinnati.
We're going to be having from 10 to 2 a training and sharing information about the direct sales industry.
Now, because we're wrapping up, do you have a website?
Yes, I do.
Because we have 1 minute left and I got to sign off.
Yeah, poweronation.biz is the website, and also they can reach us at successop at facebook.com.
Okay. I'm Michelle Graves. This show has been another awesome experience with a remarkable person, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned some things and you will begin to apply those principles into your own life. Listen, folks, things have changed. They are not going back. We're moving forward to a new and better environment, hopefully and prayerfully. I send you love, blessings, and as always, look forward to hearing and seeing you for the next segment of The Power of Money. I'm Michelle Graves. You have a wonderfully blessed day. Take care.